Imagine if the greatest mystery in history was never lost, only hidden. What if a real map to Atlantis once existed? A map so powerful that it was deliberately concealed from humanity. Ancient writings speak of coded symbols, secret paths, and warnings left for future generations, not to guide everyone, but to keep most people away. Because Atlantis wasn't just a city, it was knowledge, power, and a legacy some believed humanity wasn't ready for. The forbidden map was said to be more than parchment or stone. It was encoded in geometry, aligned with the stars, and scattered across cultures, so no single people could misuse it. Egyptian priests whispered of hidden halls beneath temples. Greek philosophers disguised fragments in dialogues, and Mayan astronomers tracked celestial cycles that hinted at directions. Each clue was a piece of the puzzle, but never the whole. Why hide such a treasure? Because knowledge without humility becomes dangerous. Atlantis itself had fallen when pride corrupted wisdom, turning sacred science into domination. Thoth, the guardian of truth, understood that humanity needed time to grow before it could handle such power. So he concealed the map, embedding it in myths, rituals, and monuments, waiting for seekers who would approach with reverence rather than greed. The legend insists that the map still whispers to us today. In the alignment of pyramids, in the chants of mantras, in the myths of floods and lost lands, fragments remain. But the deeper we look, the more we realize some secrets were hidden for a reason. Stay with me, because the final clue might reveal why this knowledge was never meant to resurface. If you love mythology and history from all cultures and forbidden ancient stories, subscribe, because this channel reveals the secrets behind every myth. And let me know where you're watching from. Hopefully not from Atlantis's internet, because that signal's been underwater for a while. Long after Atlantis slipped beneath the waves, whispers of its existence survived in writings scattered across civilizations. These texts did not describe the city directly, but hinted at a hidden map, encoded in symbols and guarded by secrecy. Egyptian hieroglyphs spoke of halls beneath the sands, chambers sealed with geometry, and guardians who protected sacred knowledge. Greek philosophers, most notably Plato, described Atlantis as a memory of a great civilization. Some scholars believe his dialogues carried fragments of directions disguised as allegory. In India, Vedic texts spoke of cosmic cycles and vibrations. Knowledge of stars and sound was part of the concealed path. The Mayans, with their astonishing calendars, left inscriptions that tracked celestial movements. So precisely they seemed to point toward something greater than agriculture or ritual. These writings were not straightforward instructions. They were riddles, layered with symbolism, designed to confuse the unworthy and guide only those who approached with humility. Priests and scribes encoded directions in myths of floods, gods, and vanished lands. The texts warned of danger, insisting that the map was not for everyone, but for seekers who understood that wisdom must be balanced with reverence. Together, these ancient writings form a mosaic. Each culture preserved a fragment, each myth a clue, each inscription a piece of the puzzle. The map was never drawn in one place. It was scattered across civilizations, hidden in plain sight, waiting for humanity to grow wise enough to read it. Atlantis may have vanished, but its story lived on in ink, stone, and song, disguised as legend, yet carrying the weight of truth. The forbidden map was never drawn with ink on parchment. Instead, it was scattered across civilizations in symbols. These symbols were not random decorations. They were deliberate markers, designed to guide only those who could read their meaning. Circles represented cycles of time, reminding seekers that Atlantis was tied to cosmic rhythms. Spirals hinted at energy and vibration, the forces that sustained the city. Triangles and pyramids pointed upward, aligning with the stars, suggesting that the path to Atlantis was not only geographical but celestial. Even animals and mythological figures carried meaning. Serpents symbolized hidden wisdom, birds represented transcendence, and floods marked destruction and rebirth. Temples and monuments across the world were aligned with constellations, serving as coordinates disguised as devotion. The pyramids of Egypt mirrored Orion's belt, while Mayan structures tracked Venus with astonishing precision. Greek myths spoke of islands swallowed by the sea, and Indian mandalas encoded directions through geometry. Each culture carried fragments of the map, each symbol a clue, each alignment a whisper of Atlantis. The brilliance of this design was its concealment. To the untrained eye, the symbols were mere art, myth, or ritual. But to those who sought with humility, they formed a path, not a straight line, but a puzzle of meaning. The symbols pointed to a location, but they also tested the seeker's patience, wisdom, and reverence. Atlantis was hidden in plain sight, its map scattered across cultures, disguised as symbols that endure to this day. The question is not whether the symbols exist, but whether humanity is ready to read them. The concealment of Atlantis was not an accident of history, but a deliberate act of preservation. Thoth and the guardians of wisdom knew knowledge is a double-edged sword. It can illuminate or destroy, depending on the heart of the one who wields it. The map to Atlantis was hidden not to frustrate seekers, but to protect humanity from itself. The true purpose of concealment was balance. Atlantis fell because its people let pride outweigh humility. Their mastery of energy and consciousness became corrupted by ambition. Harmony turned into domination, and the city collapsed under its own arrogance. To prevent this cycle from repeating, the map was scattered, encoded, and disguised. Concealment also served as a test. Only those with patience, reverence, and wisdom could piece together the fragments. The map was not meant for force or greed, but for seekers who honored knowledge. Each symbol, myth, and alignment was a safeguard, ensuring discovery required humility. In this way, concealment became preservation. The wisdom of Atlantis was protected, waiting for humanity to wield it responsibly. The purpose was not to deny knowledge, but to delay it, for humanity to grow into maturity. Atlantis was hidden because its wisdom was eternal, and eternity demands patience. The concealment was not the end, but the beginning of a mystery to guide humanity toward balance. The wisdom of Atlantis was dazzling, but it carried a shadow. The sciences of vibration, geometry, and energy were not simply tools for harmony. They were forces that could reshape reality itself. Healing through sound, harnessing limitless energy, and aligning with cosmic cycles were all within reach. Yet these same powers could be twisted into domination, destruction, and imbalance. The Atlanteans themselves proved this danger. What began as a civilization of balance turned into one of pride. Energy was redirected toward control, geometry became monuments of arrogance, and thought was corrupted by ambition. The very brilliance that sustained Atlantis became the spark of its downfall. Thoth understood that knowledge without humility is perilous. If humanity inherited the full records too soon, it would repeat Atlantis's mistakes. The map was hidden not because the wisdom was false, but because it was too true, too powerful to be left unguarded. Concealment became a safeguard, ensuring that seekers would need patience, reverence, and discipline to uncover fragments. The danger lay not in the knowledge itself, but in the heart of the one who wielded it. Wisdom can illuminate or destroy, depending on intent. That is why the map was scattered, encoded, and disguised. It was not meant to be unlocked by greed or force, but by humility. Atlantis's legacy reminds us that the greatest danger is not ignorance, but arrogance. Knowledge is a lantern. It can light the way, or it can burn the world. And so, the map remains hidden, waiting for humanity to prove it can honor wisdom rather than exploit it. The forbidden map to Atlantis was never left in plain sight. Instead, fragments of its directions were woven into sacred texts, disguised as myth, ritual, and divine instruction. These writings were not meant to be read literally. They were coded, layered with symbolism, and designed to guide only those who sought wisdom with humility. In Egypt, hieroglyphs spoke of hidden halls beneath temples, chambers sealed with geometry, and guardians who protected the secrets of the gods. The Book of the Dead contained passages that hinted at journeys through the underworld. But some scholars believe these were allegories for paths toward concealed knowledge. In India, the Vedas and Upanishads described cosmic sound and vibration, suggesting that the universe itself carried encoded directions. Mantras were more than prayers. They were frequencies that aligned the seeker with hidden truths. The texts spoke of cycles of destruction and rebirth, echoing the fate of Atlantis. The Mayan codices tracked celestial movements with astonishing precision. Venus, the planet of cycles, was observed and recorded, not only for agriculture, but as a marker of cosmic timing. These records may have been fragments of Atlantean astronomy, preserved in ritual and calendar. Greek myths carried echoes to Plato's dialogues described Atlantis as a memory, but beneath the allegory lay hints of geography and warning. Other myths of floods, gods, and vanished lands may have been coded references to the map, disguised as divine stories. Sacred texts across cultures share striking similarities: floods, hidden wisdom, cosmic cycles, and warnings of pride. These echoes suggest they were not isolated myths, but fragments of a larger truth. The map was scattered deliberately, encoded in texts that endure to this day, waiting for seekers who can read between the lines. The sacred writings remind us that wisdom was never lost. It was hidden in plain sight, disguised as myth, preserved as ritual, and waiting for humanity to mature enough to understand. Atlantis may have fallen, but its story still whispers through the pages of sacred texts. The map to Atlantis was never meant to be followed like a sailor's chart. Instead, its directions were encoded in ways that demanded patience, wisdom, and reverence. The Atlanteans understood that if the path were too obvious, it would be seized by ambition and corrupted by greed. So they scattered clues across cultures, embedding them in geometry, astronomy, and ritual. Encoded directions appeared in the alignment of monuments with the stars. The pyramids of Egypt mirrored Orion's belt, while Mayan temples tracked Venus with astonishing precision. These alignments were not simply for worship or agriculture. They were markers, coordinates disguised as devotion. To those who knew how to read them, they pointed toward cycles of time and places of significance. Numbers carried meaning to a sacred texts, often repeated sequences, 3s, 7s, 12s, not only as symbols of divinity, but as coded instructions. These numbers guided seekers through cycles, distances, and proportions, hinting at hidden paths. Geometry became a language. Circles for eternity, spirals for energy, triangles for ascent. Each shape was a step in the journey, each proportion a clue to the map's design. Even sound carried directions. Chants and mantras were more than prayers. They were vibrations that aligned the seeker with hidden truths. The resonance of certain tones was said to unlock understanding, guiding the mind toward the next fragment of the path. The brilliance of these encoded directions was their concealment. To the untrained eye, they were myths, rituals, or art. But to those who sought with humility, they formed a puzzle, a path hidden in plain sight. The directions were scattered deliberately, ensuring that only those who honored wisdom could piece them together. Atlantis was not lost, it was encoded. Its map was a riddle, written in stars, numbers, and sound, waiting for humanity to grow wise enough to read it. The guardians of Atlantis's wisdom were not kings or warriors, but priests. They were entrusted with fragments of the forbidden map, encoded in rituals, chants, and symbols. Only the disciplined could interpret. Their role was not to reveal the map, but to protect it, ensuring that knowledge would pass only to those prepared to honor it. Priests became the keepers of silence. In Egypt, they aligned temples with the stars, embedding directions in architecture. In India, they preserved mantras that carried vibrations of hidden truths. In Greece, they disguised fragments in philosophy, teaching allegories that hinted at deeper meanings. Across cultures, priests acted as custodians, scattering clues so no single people could misuse the whole. Their responsibility was immense. They were not only guardians of knowledge, but guardians of balance. They understood that wisdom without humility becomes dangerous, and so they concealed the map in rituals that tested patience and reverence. Initiates were taught discipline before they were taught secrets, ensuring that discovery required maturity as much as intellect. The priests passed fragments in silence, embedding them in sacred texts, geometry, and myth. They did not seek fame or recognition. Their purpose was preservation. By scattering the map, they ensured that Atlantis's wisdom would endure, but only for those who approached with humility. The role of ancient priests was not to lead armies or rule nations, but to guard humanity from its own ambition. They became the quiet architects of mystery, ensuring that the forbidden map would survive, hidden, encoded, and waiting for seekers who could honor its truth. The survival of Atlantis's wisdom depended not on armies or monuments, but on silence. The priests and guardians who carried fragments of the forbidden map chose secrecy over revelation. Knowledge was not shouted from rooftops. It was whispered in rituals, encoded in chants, and hidden in symbols. Only the disciplined could interpret these ancient symbols, preserving the wisdom in secrecy. Silence became their shield. In Egypt, initiates were sworn to secrecy before being taught deeper meanings. They learned geometry and alignment, knowledge passed down through generations of silent guardians. In India, mantras were passed orally, their vibrations preserved through repetition rather than writing. In Greece, Philosophers cloaked truths in allegories, ensuring only careful listeners grasped the message. Across diverse cultures, silence was the unifying thread that bound these ancient guardians together. This secrecy was not meant to deny humanity, but rather to protect it from misuse. The priests knew that wisdom without humility could corrupt, leading to dangerous consequences. So they concealed the map in ways that demanded patience, reverence, and deep understanding. Only those willing to endure silence, discipline, and ritual could earn fragments of the true path. The secrets passed in silence became a living chain, stretching across countless generations. Each guardian carried a piece, each culture preserved a fragment, ensuring Atlantis's wisdom endured. The silence was not emptiness, but preservation, a quiet safeguard against ambition and misuse. In the end, the map was not hidden in vaults or scrolls, but in the silence of those who guarded it. Atlantis's legacy survived because its secrets were passed carefully, quietly, and with reverence, waiting for seekers who could honor the silence as much as the knowledge it concealed. The path to Atlantis was never marked by roads or rivers. Instead, it was woven into symbols that carried meaning far beyond their surface. These symbols were not mere decoration. They were deliberate signposts, guiding seekers through layers of understanding. Circles represented eternity and cycles, reminding humanity that Atlantis was tied to cosmic rhythms. Spirals spoke of energy, the unseen currents that sustained life and connected the material to the spiritual. Triangles pointed upward, symbolizing ascent toward higher wisdom, while squares grounded knowledge in stability. Each shape was a step along the path, each proportion a clue to the hidden design. Colors carried meaning to gold, symbolized divine illumination. Blue represented the vastness of the sea and sky, and black marked the mystery of the unknown. Even animals and mythological figures became markers. Serpents for hidden wisdom, birds for transcendence, lions for guardianship. These symbols were scattered across temples, texts, and rituals, forming a coded language that only the patient could read. The symbolism of the path was not meant to be obvious. It was designed to test the seeker's humility. To those who rushed, the symbols were meaningless. To those who paused, reflected, and honored the mystery, the path revealed itself slowly, like a lantern flickering in the dark. Atlantis was hidden not in geography alone, but in meaning. The path was symbolic, encoded in shapes, colors, and myths that endure across cultures. To walk, it was not to travel miles, but to journey through understanding. The symbolism of the path reminds us that Atlantis was never simply a place. It was a way of seeing, a way of knowing, and a way of honoring wisdom with humility. The forbidden map to Atlantis was not only encoded in symbols and texts, it was also concealed in geography itself. Ancient guardians understood that landscapes could carry meaning, so they embedded clues in the very shape of the earth. Mountains, rivers, and coastlines became markers, disguised as natural features, but aligned with celestial patterns. Legends of islands swallowed by the sea appear across cultures. Greek myths spoke of lands lost to floods. Stories from the Americas described sacred places that vanished beneath waves. These tales were not simply warnings of disaster. They were echoes of geography, hints that the map pointed to regions where land and ocean once met. Monuments were built to mirror the heavens, but they also marked the earth. The pyramids aligned with Orion, They also stood as anchors, pointing toward hidden chambers beneath the sands. Stone circles in Europe tracked solstices. They also hinted at directions tied to ancient migrations. Even caves and underground tunnels were said to hold secrets, their geography serving as gateways to concealed wisdom. The guardians scattered these clues deliberately. By embedding directions in geography, they ensured the map could not be erased. Even if texts were lost or temples destroyed, the land itself would carry fragments of the path. The ocean's depths, the alignment of mountains, and the shifting of coastlines became silent markers, waiting for seekers who could read both earth and sky. Hidden geography clues remind us that Atlantis was not only a legend of the sea, but a mystery written into the planet itself. The land whispers of its existence, the waves conceal its memory, and the stars above guide the way. The map was never gone, it was etched into the world, disguised as nature, waiting for humanity to notice. The forbidden map was never meant to be a simple guide. It carried a warning, etched into myth and symbol. Knowledge without humility leads to ruin. Atlantis itself was the proof. Its people mastered sciences of energy, geometry, and consciousness, but pride corrupted their brilliance. What was once harmony became imbalance, and imbalance invited destruction. A cautionary tale for all time. The warning was woven into every fragment. Flood myths across cultures spoke of civilizations swallowed by water. These were not just tales of disaster, but echoes of Atlantis's fall. Sacred texts warned of arrogance. They reminded seekers that wisdom must be balanced with reverence. Even temple geometry carried this message. Thoth, the guardian of truth, understood humanity needed this warning as much as the knowledge itself. Concealment was not only protection, but instruction. The map was scattered deliberately, ensuring seekers found the warning. Each clue carried caution, reminding that discovery without humility would lead to downfall, a perilous path. The warning behind the map is timeless. It speaks not only of Atlantis, but of humanity itself. Civilizations rise and fall, not because they lack knowledge, but because they misuse it. Wisdom is a lantern. It can light the way, or it can burn the world. Atlantis was hidden to remind us of reverence. Some truths must be approached with reverence, or they will destroy those who grasp them too quickly. The forbidden map was never meant for everyone. Its fragments were entrusted only to those deemed worthy, chosen not by wealth or power, but by discipline, humility, and reverence. The guardians of Atlantis understood that wisdom without balance could corrupt, so they restricted access carefully, ensuring only a select few could glimpse the path. In Egypt, initiates of the priesthood underwent years of training before being permitted to learn the deeper meanings of geometry and alignment. In India, mantras and cosmic teachings were passed only to those who proved themselves. Through devotion and discipline, they earned the right to sacred knowledge. In Greece, philosophers cloaked truths in allegories, revealing fragments only to students. Those who demonstrated patience and insight were granted deeper understanding. Across cultures, the pattern was the same. Knowledge was guarded, shared in silence, reserved for seekers who honored wisdom rather than exploited it. Those chosen were not rulers or conquerors, but seekers, individuals who valued balance over ambition. They became custodians of fragments, passing them quietly through ritual, symbol, and text. The map survived because it was entrusted only to those who could carry it responsibly. In the end, the question of who was allowed to know reveals the heart of the mystery. Atlantis was hidden not from humanity, but for humanity. The guardians understood that wisdom must be earned, and only those who walked with humility could be trusted to hold even a piece of the forbidden map. The forbidden map was hidden for a reason, and with that concealment came a warning. Discovery carried risk. To uncover Atlantis was not simply to find a lost city. It was to awaken knowledge that could reshape the world. The guardians understood that if the map fell into the wrong hands, humanity might repeat the same mistakes that led to Atlantis's downfall. The risk was twofold. First, there was the danger of misuse. The sciences of vibration, geometry, and energy could heal and enlighten, but they could also dominate and destroy. If seekers approached the map with ambition rather than humility, they would unlock powers that could destabilize civilizations. The guardians scattered clues deliberately, ensuring that discovery required patience and reverence, not greed. Second, there was the danger of imbalance. Atlantis itself had collapsed when pride outweighed wisdom. To rediscover its secrets too soon could tip humanity into the same cycle: brilliance corrupted by arrogance, harmony undone by ambition. The risk of discovery was not only external but internal, a test of whether humanity had matured enough to wield such truths responsibly. This is why the map was encoded in symbols, scattered across cultures, and hidden in sacred texts. It was not meant to be found quickly or easily. The risk of discovery demanded safeguards, ensuring that only those who honored wisdom could piece together fragments. The forbidden map whispers a timeless truth: some knowledge is not lost but delayed. Waiting for humanity to prove it can carry wisdom without corruption. The risk of discovery is the reminder that Atlantis was hidden not to deny us, but to protect us until we are ready to honor what lies beneath the waves. The question that haunts seekers is simple. If the forbidden map to Atlantis was hidden, could it still exist today? The guardians of wisdom never claimed to destroy it. Instead, they scattered its fragments across cultures, embedding them in texts, monuments, and rituals. This means the map was not erased, but concealed, waiting for those who could piece it together. Evidence suggests that echoes of the map remain: the alignment of pyramids with Orion, the precision of Mayan calendars, the geometry of mandalas, and the flood myths of countless cultures. All point toward fragments of a greater design. Each clue is incomplete on its own, but together they form a mosaic, a hidden path disguised as legend. The possibility of the map's survival lies in its encoding, because it was never drawn on a single scroll or stone. It could not be destroyed by time or conquest. Instead, it was scattered deliberately, ensuring that even if one culture fell, another would carry a fragment. The wisdom of Atlantis was preserved not in one place, but in many, hidden in plain sight across the world. Yet the question remains: should the map be found? Its existence is both promise and peril. To rediscover it could unlock profound truths about energy, consciousness, and humanity's past, but it could also risk repeating Atlantis's downfall if approached with arrogance. Could the map still exist? The answer is yes, but only as fragments, encoded in myth, symbol, and geography. The real mystery is not whether it survives, but whether humanity is ready to read it with humility and to honor the wisdom it guards, rather than exploit it. As centuries passed, the fragments of Atlantis's forbidden map continued to whisper through myths, monuments, and sacred texts. Yet, in the modern age, seekers began to reinterpret these clues with new eyes, blending ancient wisdom with contemporary science. Some researchers see the alignments of pyramids, temples, and stone circles not merely as religious devotion, but as coded astronomical charts. They argue that these structures were designed to preserve knowledge of celestial cycles, pointing toward hidden truths about humanity's past. Others interpret flood myths as encoded memories of real geological events, suggesting that Atlantis may have been a civilization swallowed by rising seas. Modern spiritual traditions often view the map symbolically rather than literally. The encoded directions are seen as inner paths, guiding seekers toward enlightenment rather than geography. Meanwhile, scientists and explorers search for physical evidence beneath the oceans. Advanced sonar mapping, satellite imagery, and underwater archaeology have revealed mysterious structures that fuel speculation. Could these be remnants of Atlantis, or are they natural formations, misread through the lens of legend? The debate continues, but the fascination endures. Modern interpretations remind us that Atlantis is more than history. It is a mirror. Whether seen as a real place, a myth, or a metaphor, the forbidden map challenges humanity to ask, are we ready to handle the wisdom it guards? The story of Atlantis is not only about the past, but about the choices we make today, and whether we will honor knowledge with humility or repeat the mistakes of pride. The mystery of Atlantis has never faded. The modern age has only intensified the search, blending ancient legends with cutting-edge technology. Today, explorers, scientists, and dreamers continue to chase the forbidden map, hoping to uncover its true nature. Was Atlantis a myth, a metaphor, or a real civilization swallowed by the sea? Oceanographers scanned the depths with sonar and satellite imaging, revealing strange structures beneath the waves. Some claim these formations resemble roads, walls, or temples, sparking speculation of a lost city. Archaeologists investigate coastal regions where myths of floods and vanished lands persist. They search for evidence of civilizations erased by rising seas, seeking answers in the past. Meanwhile, spiritual seekers interpret the search differently. To them, Atlantis is not a place, but a state of consciousness. It's a reminder that humanity must balance wisdom with humility. The map is seen as symbolic, guiding us inward toward enlightenment rather than outward toward geography. Modern interpretations also fuel debate. Some scholars argue that Atlantis was a memory of real events, such as the eruption of Thera or the flooding of ancient coastal settlements. Others insist it was purely allegory, a story designed to warn humanity of pride and imbalance. Yet the fascination endures, because Atlantis represents more than history, it represents possibility. The search for Atlantis today is not only about finding ruins beneath the ocean. It is about uncovering truths hidden in myth, symbol, and science. Whether Atlantis is rediscovered as stone and temple, or understood as wisdom and metaphor, the search itself reminds us of humanity's eternal quest to honor knowledge, to seek balance, and to learn from the mysteries of the past. The forbidden map of Atlantis was more than a guide to a lost city. It was a mirror held up to humanity. Its concealment, its fragments scattered across cultures, carried lessons that remain vital today. The first lesson is humility. Atlantis fell because its people allowed pride to outweigh wisdom. The guardians hid the map to remind us that knowledge must be approached with reverence. Without humility, even the most brilliant discoveries can lead to ruin. The second lesson is patience. The map was encoded in symbols, texts, and geography, so that discovery required discipline. This teaches us that wisdom cannot be rushed. True understanding unfolds slowly, rewarding those who seek with care rather than ambition. The third lesson is balance. The sciences of vibration, geometry, and energy were powerful, but they demanded harmony between intellect and spirit. The guardians concealed the map to ensure that seekers would learn balance before unlocking truths too dangerous to misuse. The fourth lesson is preservation. By scattering fragments across cultures, the guardians ensured that wisdom would endure. Even if civilizations fell, this teaches us that knowledge is resilient, surviving in myth, ritual, and symbol, waiting for humanity to mature enough to honor it. Ultimately, the hidden knowledge of Atlantis reminds us that the greatest danger is not ignorance, but arrogance. The map was concealed not to deny humanity, but to protect it until we are ready to carry wisdom responsibly. The lesson is clear. Knowledge is a gift, but only when wielded with humility, patience, and balance. Atlantis whispers through its hidden map that the true journey is not to find a city, but to learn how to honor wisdom without repeating the mistakes of pride. The forbidden map was never about finding Atlantis alone. It was about guiding humanity toward a deeper truth, that wisdom must be balanced with humility, and knowledge must be honored rather than exploited. The final mystery revealed is that Atlantis was not simply a city lost to the sea, but a mirror of humanity's eternal struggle between pride and reverence. The scattered fragments, symbols, texts, monuments, and myths were never meant to be pieced together into a single chart. Instead, they formed a puzzle designed to test the seeker's heart. The true map was not drawn on stone or parchment, but within the human spirit. Atlantis was hidden not only in geography, but in consciousness, waiting for humanity to awaken to balance. The guardians understood that the greatest danger was not ignorance, but arrogance. That is why the map was concealed, scattered across cultures, and disguised in silence. The final mystery is that Atlantis was never lost. It was preserved as a lesson, reminding us that wisdom is eternal, but only safe in the hands of those who honor it. And so, the journey ends, not with a destination, but with understanding. The forbidden map points us inward as much as outward, teaching that Atlantis is both a memory of the past and a possibility for the future. The story closes here, like a lantern dimming at the end of a long path. The mysteries of Atlantis whisper still, but tonight they rest in silence. May your dreams carry fragments of wisdom, and may the echoes of hidden knowledge guide you gently. Good night.